Good morning, everyone. Today's Tech Talk is about CSS Flexbox. So in agenda, we are going to see the challenges. We are going to discuss about the challenges in CSS and about the Flexbox introduction and its terminology and how Flexbox works. And also we are going to discuss about the Flex properties in detail. And finally, we are going to end up the session with a small demonstration. Before going into main topic, we are going to see some challenges in CSS. So when a website we are giving to the client or the consumer, they always wanted a responsive and mobile friendly website. But in the UI developer point of view, it's a bit of a challenge to create a responsive website which should compatible to all the browsers and it should work in every resolution devices. It's a bit of a challenges. Even to center the elements inside a container and to float the elements from right to left. For example, if you use the float property in CSS, sometimes it may collapse the whole component. And also to properly align the spacing between each divisions and to change the order of elements in different resolutions. For example, if you wanted to change the order of element in iPad and in phone in different order, then there may be a need to change the HTML structure also. So all these can be achieved with HTML CSS, but however it will take some effort and time. So to reduce the effort and time and to develop a website in a proper way, we can use CSS Flexbox. So simply a Flexbox is a way to arrange the items inside a container in very easy and clean way. We don't have to use float or positioning. We can, in a simple way, we can arrange all the items inside a container. And also Flexbox is one-dimensional layout, which means we can arrange all the items inside a container in one direction at a time. That means we can arrange it in a column-wise or row-wise at a time. So moving on, in next slides, we are going to look at terminologies that we are going to use in Flexbox and the terminology about the Flexbox. So Nimesha will explain in detail. Nimesha?
Yeah, first I will explain the Flex terminology. The Flex container refers to the parent element and the Flex items are direct child element within the Flex container. Let's see how Flexbox works. Flex items are laid out along the main axis. By default, Flex items are arranged in rows. Cross-axis will always run perpendicular to the direction of the Flex items. Both axes also have start and end points. Main start and main end for the main axis and cross start and cross end for the cross axis. Next, we move on to the Flex properties. There are three properties used together to set the sizing of the Flex items. First value is Flex basis. It means set the initial size of the Flex items. The second value is Flex grow. It means determines how items will expand if there is extra space in the container. The third value is Flex shrink. It means determines how items will shrink if there is not enough space in the container. To use the shorthand property, we declare the grow value first, then shrink value, ending with the basis value. Let's see the behavior of different Flex properties. First one is Flex grow. Flex grow default value is 0. That means if there is extra space in the container, do not expand to fill the space. If we change the Flex grow value to 1, all the Flex items will expand the same amount to fill up the space. Next value is Flex shrink. The second value sets the Flex shrink, which defaults to 1. This means if there is not enough space in the container, shrink all the Flex items by the same amount. If we set the Flex shrink value to 0, that means it won't shrink at all. So if there is not enough space in the container, it will overflow. The third value is Flex basis. If there is enough space, make all the Flex items the size declared with this value, 100 pixel in this example. If not, then shrink or grow according to the first two values. Let's see default behavior of Flexbox. To use Flexbox on a section of your page, First convert the parent container to a flex container by adding display flex property to the CSS of the parent container. And this will initialize this container as a flex container and apply some default flex properties. Then let's move on to another flex property, flex direction. Flex direction determines the direction of the main axis. Row is the default value. Column change the main axis to a vertical direction. There are four values: row, row reverse, column, and column reverse. The animation shows what happens when flex direction column is added to the container element. Next one is justify contain. Justify contain is a property to align items in the container along the main axis. It allows us to fill any empty space on rows and define how we want to justify it. Here are the most common options used in justify contain. Flex start is default value. It means items are packed towards the start of the flex direction. The flex end means items are packed towards the end of the flex direction. Then center means items are centered along the line. And next, here we have another set of properties. We can use align items in main axis. Space between. Items are evenly distributed in the line, and the first item is on the start line and last item on the end line. And space around means items are evenly distributed in the line with equal space around them. And space evenly means items are distributed so that the spacing between any two items is equal. And next flex property is align items. Align items allows us to align items along the cross axis. To place the items at the start of the cross axis, we can use either flex start, start, or self start. And similarly, to place the items at the end of cross axis, we can use either flex start, flex end, and end or self end. And center means items are centered in cross axis, and baseline means items are aligned such as their baseline align. And next flex property is align self. Align self allows you to adjust the alignment of a single element, and it has all the same properties of align items. And as you can see, we can use flex properties such as flex start, flex end, center, baseline, and stretch to adjust the alignment of a single element. And next we have a property align contain. To align the content on cross-axis, we can use flex properties such as flex start, flex end, and center. And also next we have another set of properties we can use to align the content on cross-axis: space between, space around, space even, and stretch. And next we move on to the flex property is flex wrap. By default, flex items will try to fit onto one line. You can change that and allow the items to wrap as needed using flex wrap. So no wrap is a default value. It means all the items will be on one line. Then wrap means flex items will wrap onto multiple lines from top to bottom. And wrap reverse means items will wrap onto multiple lines from bottom to top. And next Subha will do a quick demo to further explain the behavior of different flex properties.
So now we are going to create a simple Flexbox layout, whatever the properties we have learned so far. So this is a small example of 5 children inside a parent container. So these are aligned one after the other, as we can see in the right hand side, because the default property of CSS is display block. So now all the items are displayed one after the other. So to enable or to initiate the flex property to the parent container, we are going to add display flex property to the flex container for the parent container. As we can see now, all these items are aligned horizontally because as a default way, the flex direction property is row. So after we initiate the display flex property, all the row items inside the container are aligned in a row way. So similarly, if we wanted to align all the items to be in the column way, we can use the flex direction as flex direction column, as we can see like this. And also if there is another property in flex direction, that is flex direction reverse. To change the column direction upside down, we can use this column reverse property. And also similar way to column reverse, we have row reverse also, which will reverse all the items from right to left, and without changing any HTML structure here, we can change the order of items by using only CSS. So that's the good property in the flex direction. So by default, we'll align again, change to flex direction row, and then we are going to change the width of the container and see what's going to happen. So now I have added width 500 pixel to the parent container, and also I'm going to add 100 pixel each to these children. So this means flex 100 pixel. Flex 1 will tell about the flex row property, and this second will tell about the flex string property, and the third one will be the flex basis property. So this will be the width of the each items. So now, as we can see, the parent container is having 500 pixel and each item having 100 pixel, and it's equally divided along the axis by the width. But what will happen if we increase the width of the container, parent container? Now the parent container having more width, so now the flex items inside the container also expanded and fill up the extra spacing. That's because we have enabled the flex row property. That means the first value of this to 1. So this will enlarge and take the remaining space and occupy the space. So if we don't want this property, we can disable it with 0. So now as we can see, we have extra spacing 600 pixel and only we have 5 items. So the remaining space kept empty and only the items are taking 100 pixel each. Similarly, let's do by reducing the width of the container and see what's going to happen. Now as we can see, after we reduce the container width to 400 pixel and we have 5 items. So now each item shrink together and occupy the space whatever having now. So if we don't want the item to shrink it, similar to flex grow, we can make it disabled by putting 0 to the flex string property. Now as we can see, we have out of space now. I mean, we have 400 pixel and we have 5 items, but the last item, that means the 5th item, is overflowing from the container now because of the space shortage. So to overcome this issue, we can use another property in the flex, which is called flex wrap. By default, flex wrap is no wrap, but if we wanted to move the overflowing item or the extra item to the next row, we can enable it by using flex wrap property. That means it will wrap all the elements inside the container and it will wrap the extra item or the overflowing item to the next row. So this is the simple explanation to the flex wrap property, and let's check the other properties, which is justify content. So justify content property will align all the items inside the container in the main axis of the direction. That means for now, for this container, we have given flex direction as row. That means we want all our elements to display in the row wise. So now justify content will align all the elements in the x-axis, horizontal axis. For now, so if I give justify content to center, so all the elements inside the container will be centered. And if I want all the elements to be start of the container, we can add flex start property. Similar way, if we want it to the end of the container, we can have flex end property. And also, if we want to give equal spacing between all the elements inside the container, we can have space between property. Space between means it will align all the elements in the horizontal way by having the first element in the start of the container and the last element in the end of the container. And again, if we don't want this property, if we want all the containers to be wrapped inside evenly spaced spacing, then we can use space evenly. So it will wrap all the elements with equal spacing. So this is the main idea of justified content. Again, another another property is called align items. Align item means, as we are having flex direction row, align items will align all the items in the cross axis. That means in vertical direction. So if I put align items to flex end, all the items will be vertically aligned in the end of the container. Similarly, if we want them to be in the start of the container, we can use flex start. So if we don't want both of these, if we want our items to align in the center of our container, then we can use this property. So this is the basic example of the flex properties. Normally we are using throughout the development process. So this is the normally using properties. That's all for the demo. Any questions? So in the absence of questions, in the last slide we have added some links about Flexbox, and this is the basic training to the Flexbox. So everyone can try out. If there is any clarification or help needed, you can reach me on Nimesha anytime. That's all. Thank you. Thank you for listening all this time. Thank you.